Eleanor Whitmore had lived in the same small wooden house for nearly 60 years. It stood at the edge of a quiet town in Pennsylvania, where the streets emptied early and the wind whispered secrets through the maple trees. The paint on her porch had peeled long ago, and the steps creaked beneath her slow, careful footsteps, but the house still stood, much like Eleanor herself. At 78, Eleanor's hands trembled when she poured her morning tea. They were thin hands, marked with wrinkles and faded scars, each line holding a story no one ever asked to hear anymore. Every morning, she sat by the window facing the road, watching cars pass, children heading to school, couples rushing to work, lives moving forward without noticing the old woman who watched them quietly. She had once been part of that movement. Eleanor used to laugh loudly. She used to dance barefoot in the kitchen while bread baked in the oven. She used to believe that love, once found, never truly left. But time is a patient thief. Her husband, Henry, had been a factory worker with oil-stained hands and a gentle voice. He died 15 years earlier, one cold winter morning when Eleanor woke up and realized the silence beside her was permanent. No dramatic goodbye. No final words. Just absence. Her only son, Michael, had moved to California decades ago. At first, there were letters, long ones filled with dreams and apologies. Then came short phone calls. Then holidays without visits. Then nothing at all. Eleanor never blamed him. Life was busy. America was big. Old women were easy to forget. Each afternoon, Eleanor walked slowly to the local grocery store, leaning on a cane Henry once carved for her. The cashier, a young girl named Sarah, always smiled politely, though her eyes never lingered. "Have a nice day, ma'am," she would say. Eleanor always replied, "I'll try." Back home, the house echoed with memories. The walls were lined with photographs, black and white moments frozen in time. Eleanor as a young bride. Henry holding baby Michael. A family picnic where happiness looked effortless. At night, loneliness became heavier. Sometimes Eleanor spoke out loud, just to hear a voice. "It's getting cold," she would say, pulling her sweater tighter. "I remember when winter felt warmer." One evening, a storm knocked out the power. Darkness swallowed the house, and Eleanor sat wrapped in a blanket, holding a small candle. The flame flickered, weak but stubborn. That night, she cried, not loudly, not dramatically. Just silent tears sliding down her cheeks, landing on hands that had worked their entire life and now rested uselessly in her lap. She cried for Henry. For Michael. For herself. For all the people who grow old believing someone will come back. The next morning, a knock came at the door. Eleanor opened it slowly to find a teenage boy standing there, soaked from the rain. He lived down the street, Thomas, she remembered. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said awkwardly, "my mom said you might need help after the storm." Eleanor hesitated, then smiled, a real smile, the kind that surprises even the person wearing it. "Well," she said softly, "I could use some company." Thomas began visiting often. He fixed loose boards, carried groceries, and sometimes just sat listening while Eleanor talked about a world he had never known. She told him about jukebox dances, handwritten letters, and love that waited at the door every evening. In return, he told her about school, his fears, his dreams. Slowly, Eleanor's house filled with sound again. One day, a letter arrived. California address. Shaky handwriting. It was Michael. He wrote about regret. About time lost. About how he finally understood what it meant to miss someone too late. He said he was coming home. Eleanor held the letter to her chest and closed her eyes. For the first time in years, Hope didn't feel foolish. On the evening Michael arrived, Eleanor sat by the window as she always had. But this time, she wasn't watching strangers pass. She was waiting. When the car stopped and a middle-aged man stepped out, tears filled her eyes. She stood slowly, every ache forgotten. The porch light glowed warmly, shining through the darkness. It was no longer just a light in the window. It was a life that had waited, and had not been forgotten after all.